So hi everybody, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. First of all, please, as you join us, would you keep yourselves on mute? We realise lots of you are multitasking because this is obviously lunch hour. So if you keep yourselves on mute, that prevents any background. We are recording the session, which means it will be available on the Royal College website, hopefully in the next couple of days. If you have questions, if you can put those in the chat box and if you can address those to the host, that would be absolutely great. We already have a lot of questions that have already been submitted to us. So we're going to try our very best to get through as many as we possibly can throughout the course of the next hour. But there is a section on the Royal College website for frequently asked questions. So what we will do is we will update that with anything that we feel needs to be added to it after today. So let's make a start. Hi, I'm Sue Paterson. I'm Head of Education at Royal College. I'm also a member of Royal College Council. My day job is I'm a veterinary surgeon. I'm actually a veterinary dermatologist. So you're all most welcome joining us today for this VetGDP webinar, which is about the newly launched eportfolio. Before I introduce members of the education team to you, and we actually make a start on the, if you like, the meat of this particular presentation, I just wanted to congratulate half of our audience and thank the other half of our audience. So congratulations, first of all, to all our new graduates. Welcome to our profession. What an 18 months you guys have just had. Whilst the Royal College has been monitoring the schools all the way through the pandemic to ensure the quality of teaching is being maintained and all our new graduates are day one competent, we know that your face-to-face teaching and your EMS has been cut down and it's left an awful lot of you short of hands-on experience. So whilst the VetGDP was not designed to support new graduates post-COVID, it was in the pipeline a long time before we ever knew we were going to get a pandemic. We're hoping the fact that we've been able to launch it this year is going to help support you. Secondly, a thank you, and that thank you goes out to all the vets who signed up to train and become VetGDP advisors. There are thousands of you out there. We know VetGDP is not going to solve our workforce problem, but we do know if we can provide support to our new graduates during those first few months in practice, it makes a massive difference. So thank you one and all. I personally hope that as we start to see new graduates go through their VetGDP training, that we almost get a domino effect and we start to see new grads taking on the mantle and becoming VetGDP advisors themselves. That would be fantastic to see. I am hugely proud of the work the education team has done at the Royal College to create the VetGDP. And I think I'm right in saying, Linda will correct me if I'm wrong, that the Royal College is the only veterinary regulator in the world with a support programme for new graduates. So in that respect, there was no blueprint when we designed this. And so we have created a VetGDP subcommittee, and that VetGDP subcommittee is going to oversee the VetGDP programme. So we would absolutely welcome feedback from everybody about the programme. So we'd love to hear about the positives. We want to hear about the things that you think work. But similarly, if there are things that you think we can improve, things that you don't think are working well, things that we can do to improve the functionality, please feed back to us. And there will be an email at the end of the presentation today. So that's enough from me. Let me get the education guys and the college team generally to introduce themselves. And I'm hoping that Debs is about somewhere, who is the mastermind behind this presentation. Debs, do you want to just introduce yourselves very quickly, just to tell everybody who you are?
Yes, I'm Deb and I sit in the communication teams at the college and I'm the events manager. So I am here to help you today, ask your questions.
Thank you. And next, Jenny.
Hi there, my name is Jenny Sorskog-Terp and I'm the lead for postgraduate education at the RCVS.
Thank you, Jenny. And then last but by no means least, Linda, who's going to then take on the mantle and do the presentation for us. Linda, over to you.
Lovely, thanks. Hi everybody, nice to see so many of you here. My name is Linda Prescott-Clements and I'm Director of Education at RCVS. Thank you very much, Sue. So if you could share the slides, Jenny, we'll get straight into the presentation. Just let me know when you can. Great, thank you very much. Okay, so Everybody is very welcome. So this presentation and this session is to cover VetGDP, but specifically it's around our eportfolio, which is designed to support graduates and their VetGDP advisors throughout the programme, and this was launched just very recently. So this and the next session are designed to help you. There's a video of how to show you how to run through the eportfolio and navigate it, and these are being recorded so that they can go on the website, so you can look at that over and over again if you need to be. So the presentation, what we'll cover, we'll first of all give an overview, a very brief overview of the VetGDP, because I realise that we have already had Zoom sessions with final year students from last year, so many of you will be here, and we've also spoken with advisors through the advisor e-learning, so it'll be a high-level overview, and then we'll discuss how to get started with your eportfolio, and there's a 15-minute demonstration of how to navigate through that, and then as Sue's already mentioned, we'll have time for Q&A at the end, and we have a lot of questions already, but if there is anything you want to ask, please put it in the chat box directed to Deb, the host, and we'll collate those and get to those towards the end. Okay, so the VetGDP responsibilities, the programme is actually led jointly by the graduate and the VetGDP advisor. So it's not that the responsibility is one or the other to instigate feedback or guidance sessions. Actually, it's led jointly. So the graduate needs to be proactive in identifying which areas they do feel they need support from, and similarly the VetGDP advisor to speak with the graduate, offer support and see how they're getting on generally. However, there is a third person in this, and that's the practice or the workplace via the senior vet does have a responsibility to allow the graduate and the VetGDP advisor protected time for these support sessions. So the framework for VetGDP, in order to take on new veterinary graduates, employers must be an RCVS approved VetGDP practice or workplace. And this actually came from the graduate outcomes consultation with the entire profession, which was one of the biggest consultations with the highest response we had in many, many years. And that the profession wanted RCVS not only to quality assure a new programme, but also to accredit it. So this is where this comes in. For this year, though, because we are launching this programme during a pandemic, it's essential that the VetGDP advisors have started their training, but they have the whole year to finish the e-learning. And it's after that's been completed and the declarations signed that they can practice can get approved status. And the idea is that once they're approved, they get digital badges and they can use this in their adverts for future graduates, so that upon graduation, graduates will be able to see which workplaces can offer them the support that they need. So at the moment, there should be at least one VetGDP advisor in the practice where there is a new graduate who has started e-learning. And as Sue mentioned, we have 1,000 signed up, so that's really, really encouraging. And the VetGDP advisors also need to sign the declaration that they will support the graduates from the point that they join the practice. So how to get started with the programme? So for graduates, they need to log into their RCVS My account and sign the VetGDP declaration, and that sets the process going for them. Similarly, the advisor needs to sign into their RCVS My account and complete their declaration. And then finally, the practice, so the senior vet in the practice needs to do the same, to log into the practice account and sign their declaration. And then once that's all done, people have access to the eportfolio. So as most of you should know by now, so the framework for the VetGDP revolves around what we call entrustable professional activities. But I think one thing that's really important, and we mentioned this in detail in the e-learning for advisors, and it's also been mentioned with the sessions I did with final year students last year. However, obviously the new graduates may be quite new to these. So EPAs actually come from medical education, and they're really sort of broad, holistic ways of describing multiple competencies in an activity that you will do in your job. Now, in undergraduate healthcare settings, they're used very similarly to competencies, and you will have a list of EPAs that you're assessed against and then ticked off. Now, I really need to stress that's not how they are used in VetGDP, and I know some graduates will be familiar from EPAs in their undergraduate degree. So this is completely different. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. EPAs are set at the right level for us. But they are really just providing a framework. So an EPA essentially describes a general activity that you will do in your new veterinary role. So if we take an example of that, say it might be around treatment planning. It's high level, so under treatment planning, there'll be different species involved, different types of chronic and conditions, a whole range of what we've called success factors. So the EPA itself, really the best way to think of this is as the chapter heading. It's one chapter in your eportfolio for the program. So the first step of the program is the graduate and their advisor, ideally together, should sit and run through the bank of EPAs that we have. And I believe there's 15 of them, so they are high level. And agree which of those is relevant to their graduate's specific role. Now, we think most of these will already cover everything in your role, but some of you may have niche areas, and the VetGDP is designed to be flexible for whatever your role is involved. So there is the ability to make a new EPA if you feel the ones in the bank don't cover a particular area of your role. So once the EPAs have been agreed, these form the framework of your eportfolio, like I mentioned, and there's a process that the video will show you how to select those. And really the whole program is around the graduate's development in each of these chapters or EPAs, these activities that form your job. And you can record activities under each EPA in the eportfolio, reflect on them. Your VetGDP advisor can then comment and provide feedback on them as you move through the program. So let's get to the video and the demonstration, and then we'll have a few more slides after that. Thanks, Jenny.
Hello, my name is Britta Crawford. I work for the RCVS in the Education Department. Today I'm going to take you through the VetGDP eportfolio from the graduate's point of view. The first thing you'll need to do is to log in. The login button is on the RCVS home screen in the top right hand corner. You will use the same username as you do for your My account and the same password. So here, let's log in. The first screen welcomes you, and then you click Get Started. You will choose your practice from the drop-down list, continue, and also choose your advisor. If you don't have a practice or an advisor to choose, this means that they haven't set up their relationships in their My account or signed their declaration, so you'll need to ask them to do so. You will then fill in your VetGDP questionnaire. The next thing you need to do is to build your eportfolio. We suggest that you talk through each EPA with your VetGDP advisor before you begin. But they are all set out for you here within the system. So this is EPA 1, gather a history, perform an examination, and create a prioritised differential diagnosis list. So I know that I'll be doing that, so I'll add this to my portfolio. There is 15 more, which you can flick through and add which ones you feel are appropriate. I feel that those are enough. So we'll click. You do need to click through each of the EPAs and read all of them right to the end before you can finish your selection. You can then review your EPAs with this button at the bottom. And this will give you a list of all the EPAs that you've chosen. If you feel that the EPAs that are available on the system don't cover your entire job role, then you can create your own EPAs. It is worth noting, though, that the EPAs have been created at a deliberately high level to be able to adapt to as many jobs as possible. To be honest, if you're in kind of standard veterinary practice, it's likely that all these EPAs will cover you. It's only if you have kind of like a niche thing that you might need to add something. So if you do, you click on the Create an EPA button, you give it a title, a description, the success criteria if you know what they will be, and then you submit them. And then you submit your whole selection. This will then flag up on your advisor's portfolio, and they will approve your EPAs. Once they have done so, then you'll be able to start logging your activities and your reflections. The home button takes you to your recent activities. So any activities that you've logged in your eportfolio will show up here. If you click on the VetGDP eportfolio button, it will show you your list of EPAs. To record an activity, you can either press the gold record an activity button in the bottom right hand corner, having already selected your EPA, or click on the record button in the top bar. You can then choose your EPA. So I will choose gather a history, name of activity, let's call it vaccination of a cat. Date completed, you can pick the date that you've done it in the past or just click on today's date. Activity description, vaccinating a cat, taking a history, doing an exam, talking to client. Was this activity observed by your VetGDP advisor? Yes, it was. Did you receive guidance or support for this activity? Let's say yes, it was. Next. This screen then takes you through various different success criteria so that we can look back and see the breadth and depth of activities that you've done. So we'll leave that as not applicable, low routine. We said it was a cat. Let's say a moderate degree of client cooperation and a moderate degree of animal participation, and save. You can now either add a reflection straight away, or you can click on you can save it and then go back later and click on the reflect button and add one in later. There are two ways of adding a reflection. You can either press the guided button where it asks you questions to help your reflection, or you can press the free button and you can just reflect freely. So we'll do the guided one today. Which areas did you find challenging? Let's say the client, oh, can't spell, the client could not remember all of the history and the animal was scared. Which areas did you complete well? You can say, I was pleased with the history I took and got all the relevant information in spite of a difficult client. I can't spell, there we go. Which areas need further development and goals identified? I will talk further with my advisor about goals on this issue. Any additional comments? Add additional comments. And you save your reflection. And it gives you a chance to review. There's also an attachments section, so you can upload any notes, upload documents. If you've made handwritten notes, you can take a photograph of those and upload them. You can record into it so that it records your speech, or perhaps you can record the discussion that you had afterwards with your advisor, and you can also add that. I'm taking you back to the home screen. then you can see that there is your recent activities. And if you click on this, it shows you the information that's in there. At least once a month, you and your VetGDP advisor should do a progress review. And to add one of these, you press this button here, View Add Progress Reviews. So you're doing this on EPA 1, and you would do a progress review for each of the EPAs. Add Progress Review. So hopefully you will have had a conversation with your advisor before you fill in this review. So in these boxes, you can fill in the information that the advisor has told you, the goals that you have decided between yourselves, any reflections that you have over the month's work, and a summary of that general discussion. You may ask, how many activities should I include in my eportfolio? I think it would be a good habit to get in to do at least one a day, because the more activities that you have in your eportfolio, the more you have to discuss with your advisor and the more learning opportunities there are. How to view and add progress reviews. So you want to log in as you usually would do and click on your VetGDP eportfolio, which brings you to this page. You will do your monthly review per EPA, and ideally you will have had your monthly review discussion with your VetGDP advisor before you do this, but you could also sit down and do it together at the same time. I'm calling it a monthly review, but actually when you first start your job, these reviews, you might have one a week for the first couple of months or one every 2 weeks. And then these will peter out as you become more confident and capable. So to create a new one, I'm going to do it for EPA 1. So I've clicked on EPA 1 and then click on View and Add Progress Reviews. And then to add a new progress review, you would click on this button here, but I am going to click on this one, which I did earlier, so I can show you what I have filled in. So date of review, which I've put in as today's date, but you can put in as a date in the past if that's more helpful to you. You would then add in a summary of your discussion with your VetGDP advisor. So the two of you would have been together and looked back on the activities that you've done for this EPA since your last review. So what I have added in here is discuss the activities logged since the last review and a few others, which my advisor felt that I should also have included in my portfolio. I've performed lots of vaccinations, which involve taking a history for each animal, performing an examination of each animal, and talking to the owners. Vaccinations have been mainly on dogs, but also cats. I have dealt with some cases on my own where a colleague has advised the likely issue with the animal. So then I reflect on what I've done in those activities. So the vaccinations have been a great way of getting used to taking a history. So I'm much better at that. I'm better at the animal handling, and ask for veterinary nurses to help me, and they've helped me become more confident do that. More comfortable talking to clients because I've done that a bit more. And I've not yet created a prioritised differential diagnosis list on my own, but have talked through several with colleagues. So your advisor will have put down goals and an action plan with you. So this is what you would add into this section. So I've just probably put see a wider variety of animals, see a wider variety of situations, and start to move beyond vaccinations. The next page, you should also have discussed with your VetGDP advisor before you set your own levels. So this is a sliding scale. You click onto the button and you can slide it up and down. And it's starting on the left at day 1 competent level as you've left university, and it's moving towards becoming an independent, competent, confident practitioner. So as this review has happened very early on in your working career, in the first couple of weeks or the couple of months, you would still be very much on the left-hand side. So you haven't seen many different clinical presentations as they've had you doing vaccinations for the last couple of weeks. So this would be down here. You've only really seen dogs and cats and really pretty much just dogs. So that's also towards the left-hand side. Again, still doing vaccinations. So the case complexity is still this side. Client cooperation, well, you might have had one tricky person that you've managed to talk around and persuade that you did this or the other and help them in that way. So perhaps that's a little bit higher up. And you've had some really tricky cats that have been an absolute pain, but now you're really competent at dealing with them. So this has moved further up the line. Your advisor can log into your account and see your monthly reviews, and they have this option here, this button, to add their own comments. These will be broad comments, and they might comment on any of the boxes, any of the goals or the reflections or anything they feel you might have missed from the discussion that you had.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny Soresgaard-Terp and I'm the lead for postgraduate education at the RCVS. So I'm going to show you how the VetGDP ePortfolio work from the VetGDP Advisers perspective. So you log in at the same website where you log in for one CPD. You use your My Account username and password. And then you'll get an option. You can either go to the one CPD or VetGDP. So we'll choose VetGDP. And all of our graduates have already completed the declarations and they've chosen us as the VetGDP advisor. So you can see that these are my graduates, and I can then click on them to review what activities and progress they've made. I will start with this one, and this is a new one. So this graduate have just started the VetGDP and chosen their EPAs. Hopefully that will have been something that the advisor and graduate will have done together. So now the VetGDP advisor can just approve the EPA selection. So you'll see all the selected EPAs here. And then you can either approve the entire selection or you can request changes. If you want to request changes, you press the red button and then you can just add some comments that will just be sent to the graduate again, and then they can amend their EPA selection. But hopefully in most cases you can just approve the entire EPA selection and the graduate will then be able to start recording their progress. Okay, so I'll go back to the home page and just choose one of my other graduates so you can see what activities and progress they've made. And you'll see here on the left-hand side is all the EPA that's part of their portfolio. And you'll see a description of the EPAs here. At the bottom of the page, you can see if they recorded any activities, reflection, or progress review against the EPA. So for this one, they haven't yet recorded any activity, so there's no blue buttons at the bottom. So if you click through, you can just see that. So if we go to EPA 1, you can either view activities, view reflection, or view progress review. So if you click view activities, there'll be a list of any activities that they've recorded. So here I can see the basic details of the activity, if there are any attachment, and I can also view the reflections. Yeah. And if I want to, I can add a comment or edit a comment here, and that will then be part of the graduate's portfolio. And I can go back. And if you go to reflection, you'll see the same screen that you saw with activities, but it will take you straight to just the reflection section there. And then you'll also see view progress review. So if you click on that one, you'll have a list of all the progress reviews that you've done against that EPA. So you just click on that one and you'll see first a summary page. There's different ways to do the progress review. You might want to do them together with your graduate and just fill in all the information together. Or the graduate might prepare some of the reflections and summary, and then you can then review it. But the graduates will do most of the recording. You'll see here they filled in the progress review. You can add a comment if you want. And then you'll see on the next page are all the sliding scales that you should try to do together so that you can have a discussion of where the graduates are at for this EPA. The VetGDP advisor can't amend the sliding scales in their portfolio, so it's only the graduates who can do that. So if we go back, here you can use, there's quite a lot of text, and I know that it can feel like this is going to take up quite a lot of work, but we will be introducing an app version of the portfolio later this year that you will then be able to use the audio recording button. But it's worth remembering that as most part of most laptops and mobile devices, you can also use speech recognition software. So if I do that as part on my laptop, I'll just delete my comment, and then here are my comments, and insert that. So it just magically transforms that into text, which makes it very easy to just record all your conversations or reflections. Yeah. And then you can just save it. So that's basically how the VetGDP Advisor portfolio works. It's very straightforward. It just gives you access to everything that the graduate records. But remember that you can use the contact us button, and just if there's anything that you feel you need more guidance, it's not working properly, just say I have a suggestion and send us your comments. We really appreciate all the feedback that we can get. And any suggestions for further improvements. So thank you so much.
Okay, thanks Jenny and Britta for that demonstration, really appreciate it. As I said before, these videos will be on our website, so if you want to go through that demonstration a bit slower and work your way through the portfolio in real time, you can do that there. I just noticed on that demonstration it referenced that one of the very first things you'll be faced with once you do log in is the questionnaire, and there's two separate questionnaires, and these are so important to us and hopefully to you too. So the graduate questionnaire is really to reflect on the different types of activities and how well you feel you are been prepared by your veterinary degree for those, and by doing that right at the beginning, that should help inform your decisions around your EPAs. Please, this data is all confidential, so please do fill that in honestly. And what we can do is look at that to try and do quality improvement around veterinary education. So it's really helpful. There's a very similar questionnaire at the beginning as well for advisors. However, we do realise that for advisors to be able to fill that in, you probably need to have seen your graduate for maybe 4 to 6 weeks before you can fill that in properly. So please do feel free to leave it a few weeks before you fill in your survey. Okay, so moving on, I mentioned earlier that this programme has come out of the graduate outcomes consultation with the profession, and the profession supported RCVS having a role in the quality assurance of the programme as well as accreditation. So in that respect, that we are going to be checking in with everyone, but we wanted this to be very light touch. We recognise that everybody is busy, but we do want to make sure that graduates are receiving the right kind of support, and also that from the VetGDP Advisers perspective, that their graduate is engaging with the programme. So it'll be once every quarter that you'll receive a very, very short questionnaire, maybe 3 to 5 questions that you can answer very quickly, just on are you getting the support you feel you need, etc. And from the advisor point of view, is your graduate engaging and progressing as you'd like? So those kind of things. We've established the VetGDP subcommittee, as Sue mentioned, and that will keep the quality of the programme under review. So if you do have any suggestions, we'd love to hear them. And really, as a reassurance, the reflections and data and feedback that go into your VetGDP eportfolio will only be accessed by the education department for the purposes of the programme only. And at the end of the programme, if we could just get the next slide, Jenny, please. Thanks. So there is a completion process for the programme. And graduates need to have demonstrated that they can perform all the activities within their role confidently without support. So that's what the program's all about, and that's moving those sliding scales from the left to the right. And there'll be a peer review process to sign that off, and that will be another VetGDP advisor, an independent one on our panel, will review your eportfolio to see all of the contents within, to show your journey and how you've progressed towards that right hand side as a confident, competent professional across all of your EPAs. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that process at the end of the programme, it's not time bound, so it is when both you and your VetGDP advisor feel that you, through your progress reviews, that you have progressed to that right hand side of the scale across all the activities. So at that point, when you don't feel there's any more progress needed in any area, that the VetGDP advisor and the graduate agree that they're ready to submit the eportfolio to the RCVS for peer review. Like I mentioned, it's an independent process, and that ensures that your own VetGDP advisor doesn't have the final responsibility for signing off the eportfolio, which could conflict with other aspects of their role as coach and mentor. I just wanted to mention, if you do have any questions, please do contact us at any time, but we do have a dedicated section now on our website. So there's the detailed VetGDP guidance, and also the EPA bank are available to download off the website. And this is our dedicated email address for anything to do with VetGDP. So like I said, we're happy to answer questions at any time. So Jenny, I don't know if we have had some questions while we've been presenting.
We have, yes, and I'll cover some of the ones that we received earlier. I can just open them. There's quite a few. How many EPAs do we have to do we have to enter? Is there a general guide, 4 to 6, or more than 8?
That's a good question. I'll take that one, Sue. I think one of the reasons the PDP didn't work as well is because when we evaluated it, it was very much a tick box exercise, and it was very, very structured and detailed. But of course, a program that reduces flexibility. So we've designed VetGDP specifically to be flexible, so that there isn't a set number of EPAs. What I will say is they're very high level. So we have 15 in our bank, and we do feel that they will cover most aspects of most roles. You can develop other ones if you have a niche area, but some of those are more relevant, for example, to government vets. So we wouldn't expect all 15, but the majority of those EPAs are probably relevant to the majority of the roles. I think it's a bit of a myth, it is a myth, that if you select fewer EPAs, you will finish the program more quickly. That's not the case. And actually, at the peer review and sign off, obviously the independent VetGDP advisor will see what role you're doing and look. So if you've selected 2 EPAs and actually you've got quite a broad spread of role, then that would be a flag. So the idea is just you run through those EPAs, and if it's relevant to your role, then you select it and it's part of your portfolio.
Jenny, you're on.
Sorry, yes, just to follow up on that. Are you able to change which EPAs you choose once you selected them, Linda?
Yes, you can, and that's coming in phase 2 of the platform, but you can still do that. So if you change jobs, for instance, after 6 months due to whatever circumstances, and your new role is slightly different, you can take with you what's still relevant, but you can add different EPAs, yes. That functionality, I think, is coming in the next few weeks. So if that's something you do need to do fairly quickly, then just contact us using the email address and we can help you.
Great, and I'll ask you a few more, Linda. How many cases do we need to do per EPA?
It's a very similar question to the how many EPAs, so that there aren't any criteria as such, because one person might have come with more experience and might progress in a certain time. Somebody else might have had less experience at undergraduate level and might take longer or a bigger number of cases. So the idea is to do each EPA some activities as regularly as you can and look at the different success criteria. So if that's making sure that you cover that activity with different species or different types of clinical conditions or different case complexities, make sure you're getting a large variety. Then by the end of the programme, you should be confident in that area of your role, no matter what the species or however cooperative the animal or the client is. And it's about building your portfolio through that. So we do think to do that, you need to record activities and reflect regularly, and there needs to be plenty in there, because of course the peer reviewer will be looking to see the evidence in your portfolio that you've met all of those success criteria. But there's no fixed number. Some people will do it more quickly and in fewer activities than others.
And can I just add to that as well? I think all vets have got a natural aptitude either to be medics or surgeons. There's very few people who enjoy both. So you will find that some people will have only a few cases for the medical ones, so like EPA 1, 2 and 3, and have lots for something like 6 and 7, which is the surgery and anaesthetic. So it's completely variable, but that's why it's so good, because it's so flexible.
Yeah, exactly. And it also allows you, the progress reviews allows you to look at across all EPAs as well. So if there is something that you want to get experience in, but 6 months into the programme you haven't, you can speak to your VetGDP advisor, and if it's possible within your role or practice, then they could maybe earmark that area for you to get some more experience. So it's about finding the gaps as well.
Okay, and one more for you, Linda. Is there any chance of seeing a draft EPA so that we can see what level of detail is required?
Yeah, so if you go on our website, the full bank of EPAs is a document, you can download them all. If you'd rather have a hard copy in front of you, obviously when you log into the eportfolio, they're there for you to review as well, and all the details in those.
Thank you. Sue, so do we record a whole case each time, or just part that's relevant to that particular EPA?
I think the whole principle of this is holistic. This is supposed to really help you develop as a veterinary surgeon. So that's completely variable. And there'll be some cases where, for example, if it's a medical case, you might use EPA 1, 2 and 3. So you're here taking history, you're doing differential diagnosis, and you're doing treatment. And you can use any one or part of those. And similarly, if you're doing, I don't know, a dental procedure, there'll be an anaesthetic and then the procedure itself. Again, you could use either of those EPA. So it's very variable. You can mix and match. And obviously, there'll be some components of each EPA you're going to be better at. So you may be better at giving an anaesthetic than taking a tooth out. So it may well be that your level of competence is different on each of those. So it's completely variable how you do this. And this is the beauty of VetGDP compared to PDP. PDP was very much a tick box exercise. This is flexible and malleable to the needs of each individual graduate.
Thank you. And this is quite similar. Can you combine EPAs? I feel that some of them go hand in hand, and I filled out quite a few template forms where I've selected one EPA for the same case.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no reason why you can't. Yeah, absolutely fine.
Okay, and how do we log VetGDP EPAs as CPD? And do new graduates have to log CPD as part of VetGDP, or is it a surplus? Sue and Linda, don't know if who wants to cover it.
Shall I start? I mean, VetGDP is your CPD if you're a new graduate. So your 35 hours, which obviously is something that becomes compulsory from next year, will your VetGDP will cover it for you. If you want to record extra CPD, there's no reason why you can't. And of course, it may well be that CPD you do in your first year dovetails into the needs of your VetGDP. So if you're not confident with anaesthetics or pain relief, it may be you do CPD related around that, or it may be you want to go and do some medicine CPD. So the two are interchangeable. This is supposed to be a completely flexible system. I don't know if you've got any to add to that, Linda.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe just one thing to add is, remember, CPD isn't just the paid course. It's actually every interaction with your advisor that you reflect on is CPD, and all your progress reviews are CPD. So you would record that in your VetGDP portfolio, but all of that time is contributing to your CPD requirement.
Some general VetGDP queries. Linda, I have completed nearly 3 of the modules. When do I have to do this? When do I have to finish this CPD by?
Oh, well, so that must have come from an advisor. So well done. 3 is great. And you're on the home straight, I think. For this year, so under normal circumstances, as this program rolls out, advisors will need to have completed the program, all 6 modules before they become advisors. But this year, advisors have until the end of the calendar year, as long as they're engaging with it and everything, because we recognise that during the pandemic and now, even though the restrictions have hit, there's been people are extremely busy. So you've got till the end of the year to complete it.
Can I just add to that? Having done the training, the first part is much more labour intensive than the second part. It gets much easier as you go through. The modules get shorter, so it isn't downhill slope once you've started, I promise.
Can I fast track the e-learning and complete it in a week?
Yes, you can. It's completely flexible. People can dip in and out and complete it at their own time. So if that's an easier way to get it done quickly, then yes, absolutely.
And
but that defeats, for me, that defeats the principle of that, because it's all about gaining confidence. So if you can gain confidence in a week, fantastic. But
no, this is the e-learning for advisors.
Oh, okay, the e-learning for advisors. Blimey.
You can't do the VetGDP program in a week.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry.
Let's move on. Why do we have to wait to be selected by a graduate to start the training? I don't think that's the case. That's you can start the e-learning as long as you've been on the register for 3 years, but you can't start the eportfolio until a graduate have assigned you.
Yeah.
And similar, can we start the eportfolio if our advisor haven't completed the training? Which you can.
Yeah, this year, yes, you can.
Good. Sue, are we able to be remote independent advisors, i.e. advisors to new graduates outside the practice, to prevent bias forming within the practice and allow new graduates to talk on matters completely independently?
The aim of having a VetGDP advisor is that they need to be available for their new graduate. And so I would suggest that as a locum, unless you're there perhaps as a long-term locum, perhaps covering parental leave or something like that, I would suggest a locum probably isn't going to do the best job, because they're not going to be there to supervise, they're not going to be there to be available to ask questions or planning. So I would suggest probably not, although of course we do have the facility to provide locum support for practices if a VetGDP advisor becomes available for any reason. But it's a nice idea, but I just don't think it, personally, I just don't think it would work. I don't know what your thoughts are, Linda, on that.
Yeah, I agree completely. I looked at the source of the question. I think this question's come from somebody from the Ministry of Defence, so it might be something to do with the structures there. But yes, I agree with what you say. I think it's better in the one-to-one relationship.
Sue, what is the maximum number of new graduates that you can, that an advisor can have? Oh, Sue and Linda.
It's got to depend on the time commitment you can give them. So obviously there's a commitment to provide an hour every week, although we recognise that some new graduates may need more than that, perhaps in the early stages after they qualify. So you have to be reasonable and you have to be honest when you're looking at this. So, you know, perhaps 2 or 3 if you've got time in your day to do that. And there will be people within practices who are allocated time to do training. So it's very variable. But if you're a primary care practitioner and you're busy, then 1, I should think, would be more than enough.
Thank you. And how long should I be spent mentoring with a supervisor on a regular week?
So that was, how long should a new grad spend with their supervisor in a regular week, Jenny? Is that?
I think so, yeah. How long should be spent mentoring? Yeah.
So again, that's we would hope a minimum of an hour, although it may be more initially. But that hour can be broken up. It may be half an hour there, so supervising during a consultation or chatting after a piece of surgery. But you should be looking at least an hour a week, I would suggest.
Okay, we've had a few about the eportfolio, which I'll ask myself and I can answer them. Will the graduate and advisor be able to see the same things, or will there be separate areas? So, as you could see in the demonstration, you'll log into separate accounts, but the graduates will do most of the recording and the advisor can then review the portfolio, but logging in separately. And there's a few issues. The eportfolio currently says I'm not registered with a practice, but I've completed the training and I've amended my account a few weeks ago. So I know there's been a few issues because it's quite complicated. It needs to be, the graduate needs to have their relationships up to date. The advisor needs to have signed the declaration and have their relationship, and the practice needs to sign the declaration and nominate the VetGDP advisor. So all that needs to be in place before you can log in. And then, as you could see, the graduates will do the first, just choose the VetGDP advisor. But if it doesn't work for any reason, just contact us and we can do some investigation. And this is, you know, it might seem like it's a lot to go through just to get access to the eportfolio, but it's really important so that your data is secure and only the VetGDP advisor and the graduate can see the data.
It's just at the first time as well. It's just in the initial setup. It's not, you don't have to go through that process each time after that.
And there's a question if there can be a dummy version, what if you don't have a new graduate. Send us an email and we can look at that and see if there's anything we can do. Because generally it's linked to a graduate, but if you contact us, we can look at it. And then I have a recent graduate who got the RCVS registration in 2020, but have moved practices and started with us in 2 weeks. Will she need to enroll on this? Do you want me to? It depends on if she's done PDP. If she hasn't, she can enroll in VetGDP. And it'll be a great way to get support. Okay, so that was the questions we received. So we have a few that we got today. Let me just.
Well, while you're looking through them, Jenny, can I just make a quick general comment about recording? One of the things that Britta said in the presentation was you need to try and record as often as you can. And I know how difficult that can be when you've had a busy day. And obviously, once we have the app available, that's going to make a big difference. But in the meantime, I don't know if any of you do it, but you can record stuff into your phone. So just go into the notes and press the record button, and you can just dictate thoughts and reflections into your phone, which is a way to actually record it, and then you can transfer it onto the record when you get home. So the important thing with this is to do it, I would suggest, fairly close to the time. And also it's a great way of unwinding if you've had a really difficult day and you've had a really difficult consultation. Just to dictate it, I think, makes a real difference. So use your phone in the meantime if you can't get to a computer and you can't record it. I think that will probably help save time and allow you to do some reflection. So Jenny, more questions.
Yes, Linda, how do you choose the independent peer reviewer?
Well, that is a good question. And so that's one of the things we're going to be talking about at the first meeting of our VetGDP subcommittee. So how it will work is we'll contact all VetGDP advisors that have completed the e-learning and ask them if they want to be part of a panel of reviewers is their role. And so those that would like to be involved in that will be the panel, and it will be a random selection from that panel, I imagine. But our VetGDP committee will be looking at that and finalise that process before the end of this year.
And Sue, should the VetGDP take us 35 hours of CPD, or do you think it'll be more than that?
It takes as long as it takes is what it's about. It's not a competition to race to the finish. It's about building your confidence. So I would suggest it probably will take more than 35 hours to complete, but it counts as your CPD for the first hour, for the first 12 months.
Yeah, there's just a question where they can find the e-learning modules, and it's there's a link on our website, or you can email us and I'll send you the link. And there's some questions about not letting you access the eportfolio without a supervisor. So again, contact us and we can see if the advisor and the practice have signed their declaration. So check that all the relationships are up to date. Okay, as someone who's just got temporary registration at the moment, I have been unable to sign up for my GDP. Do I have to wait until my full registrations come through? I don't know.
I would suggest that yes would be the case on that, but again, just Jenny is happy to take queries from absolutely anybody. If Jenny doesn't know the answer, she can certainly find someone who does. So I would suggest you need to be fully registered before you can start. Is that your understanding, Linda? Yeah,
I think so. I think it depends on the role as well. So whoever asked that question, do email in, tell us your specific circumstances, and we'll get an answer really quickly.
Okay. I see if you can make sense of this. Do you have to evidence when you put in a case? Also, if you evidence notes, are they private, or do you need to remove personal information?
We're professional people, so you should not need to evidence anything that's in there. The stuff that's put into your record is can only be seen by you, your advisor, and the education department will have access to it. So it should be GDP secure, I would suggest, Linda. There should be no need to record client details specifically, because we're talking in generalities, aren't we? I would suggest.
Yeah, I would recommend that unless it's unavoidable and they need to record it, they avoid client details and anything under GDPR. That's one of the things the committee will look at in terms of the peer reviewer, because obviously they will see they're the only other person that will see the contents of that. So the best practice is to avoid recording anything personal if you can. If we need to anonymize something, we might need to get back in touch with you. But yeah, shouldn't need to, I don't think.
Okay, another, just to confirm, if our VetGDP counts as CPD, do we need to record it in one CPD as well, or will it automatically be added once it's signed off as complete? Yeah. I don't know, maybe I can answer that.
Oh, go on, Jenny.
Yes, so once it's completed, you'll be able to add 35 hours. You can choose if you want to add a few hours this year or next year. But yes, you don't have to duplicate anything. VetGDP counts as your CPD. So if we have a 2021 graduate who graduated in May, would they be on VetGDP or PDP? Was there a cutoff, or is it just 2021 grads starting this year?
So if they've not registered for PDP, my understanding is they can register for VetGDP, can't they, Linda? So if they've registered for PDP, they should carry on with PDP, but if they've not registered, they can go to VetGDP.
Exactly.
And PDP is still fully supported. We still have our postgraduate deans working. There's still the facilities there. So there should be no problem if you're registered with PDP. Don't panic. We're not going to throw you out on a boat without a paddle. You will still be supported.
Okay. Hi, we have been adding clients' names so that the advisor can review clinical notes for the graduate statements. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
I don't see anything wrong with that, but if you are reviewing these on a weekly basis, then there should be no need to put all that sort of detail in, but there should be no reason why you shouldn't.
I mean, in a way, that's really nice that you're working together so well on the cases. Maybe you can record them initially to allow your advisor to see that specific case, but then remove the personal information perhaps afterwards.
So Jenny, I think these good people probably need to go back to their day jobs. I think it's after 2 o'clock. We have obviously got lots and lots of questions that we could carry on with all day, but we will add those to the frequently asked questions on the website. And if there's anything else that people need help with, perhaps they can contact you directly. So that we can answer their specific questions, because there will be questions that are specific problems that people are encountering. So I'm going to suggest, unless anybody, Linda or Jenny, you've got anything desperate that you need to impart, that we thank everybody, let you go back to your day jobs. Do feedback to us, as I said, positives and negatives. We're happy to receive both. And thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We'll see you all again soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.